How does it feel to lose an entire season in 1 week? Well, it's very rare for Real Madrid fans to experience it, but the 2018-19 campaign will categorically be remembered as the weakest of the 21st century and one of the worst in the club's entire history.
Corner taken by Kroos and flicked on by Carvajal! And Real Madrid lead the Champions League final! Bellingham, here's Vinicius Jr., great chance, 2-0! And Vinicius Jr., the man for the big occasion!
On the bright side, however, the monumental crisis of 5 years ago was quickly averted and then returned to their usual high level the following season. So, how did they bounce back from a week described by the media and pundits as the worst in the club's history? We answer that and many more questions in today's video, so stay tuned. Picture this: Real Madrid are the greatest club in the world. There is no doubt about it. The most Champions League titles, the most La Liga titles, the biggest fan base in the world, and, last but not least, the strongest mentality. We've seen Real Madrid come back from impossible situations dozens, if not hundreds of times. Just think of the 2022 Champions League title, when Los Blancos staged some magnificent comeback against PSG in the last 16, Chelsea in the quarters, and Man City in the semis. Let's not forget the season's semi-final, when Bayern Munich were 10 minutes away from victory, but Madrid still managed to get the better of them. Despite everything we've said so far, and the fact that they had won the Champions League 3 times in a row at the time, Madrid simply collapsed in the space of a few months in 2018-19, with the peak of their crisis coming at the beginning of March. But before we go any further, let's put this into context, shall we? The previous season, 2017-18, ended on a high for Real Madrid as they completed a dream run of 3 consecutive Champions League titles under Zinedine Zidane. However, less than a week after their 3-1 win over Liverpool, the Frenchman announced his resignation as the first team coach, citing a need for change at the club. On top of that, Cristiano Ronaldo also decided to call it quits on his time at Real Madrid, which was the last straw in a tight situation that made it extremely difficult for the club to compete in 2018-19, even with superstars like Modric, Kroos, Benzema and Ramos. At the heart of Real Madrid's problems, however, were not the departures of the two legends. History is littered with teams that have gone through similar changes and still found the best possible solution. Barcelona, for example, won the Champions League 2 years after Pep Guardiola's departure. Chelsea played their first major European final the season after Mourinho's exit, and Sevilla won the Europa League again a few years after their glory days with Unai Emery at the helm. Yes, you get the point. Many teams have been able to overcome tough departures quickly and effectively. At Real Madrid, however, these changes were perhaps too drastic, and the arrival of Zidane's successor, Julen Lopetegui, was met with much controversy. At the time, Lopetegui was in charge of the Spanish national team, which he guided through World Cup qualifying to book La Roca's place at the tournament. However, just days after Zidane's statement, Real Madrid showed an interest in Lopetegui and chose him as their next coach. The Spanish coach couldn't resist the opportunity and didn't even finish the World Cup with the national team, instead immediately signing a contract with Madrid. However, both Real Madrid and Spain would suffer the consequences of this emotional decision for months to come. Lopetegui's place at the helm of La Roca was taken by Fernando Hierro, with whom Spain were eliminated in the round of 16 in Russia, while Madrid made a poor start to the La Liga season, dropping many points in the first 3 months of the campaign. The turning point in Lopetegui's tenure at the Santiago Bernabeu was a horrendous 5-1 defeat at the hands of Barcelona in El Clasico, a game in which Luis Suarez scored a hat-trick and Leo Messi didn't even play. The result was a clear sign of Real Madrid's future, as Julen Lopetegui was sacked the following day and replaced by a less familiar name, Santiago Solari. The Argentine's arrival brought some short-lived positive changes, but even by the middle of the season, no one was expecting Real Madrid to win anything. However, unlike Lopetegui, whose record in his 10 La Liga matches in charge of Real Madrid was just 13 points from 30, Solari almost doubled that with 25 in his first 10 league games. Solari even won the Club World Cup with Real Madrid in late December 2018, but despite the success, he would no longer be part of Los Blancos just 3 months later. You want to know why? Well, the worst week in the club's history. Yes, as we said, Solari was actually doing quite well. Not at the level of legends like Mourinho, Ancelotti or Zidane, of course, but at least he was a big improvement from Lopetegui. But when it came to Real Madrid's big games, Solari simply failed to live up to expectations. The first of these was against Barcelona in the second leg of the Spanish Cup. The first had ended 1-1, and Madrid were hoping that this match would be the turning point in their season, with at least one trophy on the line. Well, despite creating chances in the first half at the Santiago Bernabeu, Los Blancos couldn't find the back of the net. The game was also memorable for another reason. It was one of the worst nights in Vinicius' Real Madrid career to date, as he missed at least 5 clear chances. He was still in his pre-Ancelotti era at the time, like so many other overhyped talents who just couldn't find the right frame of mind to fulfill their potential. Indeed, Vini was the disappointment of the match, as Barca punished Madrid's mistakes in the second half to run out 3-0 winners in a game in which Luis Suarez scored twice. That defeat knocked Santiago Solari's side out of the Copa del Rey, and their next hope was to cut Barcelona's lead in the league of 10 points. To do so, however, Real Madrid needed to win the league's El Clasico just 3 days after the disastrous 3-0 cup defeat. Like any great team, Real Madrid knew how to find the right style of play despite one of the worst periods in their history. Yes, Barcelona were in fine form at the time, but everyone at the Santiago Bernabeu knew that they weren't unbeatable, and in fact, Solari's side had all they needed to get the better of their arch rivals if they could take their chances. However, the match was exactly the opposite. Real Madrid once again created the majority of the chances, but it was Rakitic's first half chip over Courtois that proved the difference as the Catalans won their second consecutive El Clasico and their third in 4 games in 2018-19. It was a devastating defeat for the Whites, who had no choice but to be at their best on their favourite territory, the Champions League. They had won 2-1 away to Ajax in the first leg of their last 16 tie, and 3 days after their second defeat to Barcelona, they just had to hold on to their lead in front of their home fans at the Santiago Bernabeu. But no one had any idea what would happen over the next 90 minutes. Arguably the club's biggest ever Champions League humiliation. Yes, the Dutch fans' dream came true. Indeed, the star-studded Ajax team of Frankie de Jong, Matthijs de Ligt, Van de Beek, Tadic, Neres and Ziyech was simply too good for Real Madrid. Erik ten Hag's boys were off and running after 7 minutes when Ziyech scored to make it 1-0. And although Real Madrid still qualified on the away goals rule, nobody thought they could stop the Dutch sensation. The chances in front of Courtois' goal kept coming, and after just 11 minutes, the second came, this time from Brazilian winger Neres. Although he hadn't scored up to that point, Dusan Tadic was undoubtedly the star of the night. He set up both first half goals, even beating Casemiro with a brilliant roulette for the second, before slipping the ball through to Neres. Then, the second half was much the same. Ajax continued to attack and play their excellent style, while Real Madrid continued to miss chance after chance. About an hour in the game, Tadic scored the third goal, confirming his superb form and unbelievable creativity and goal-scoring prowess. Afterwards, the French newspaper L'Equipe gave him a 10 out of 10 rating, something that had only happened 17 times in history, a testament to his incredible performance at the Santiago Bernabeu that night. Real Madrid scored in the 70th minute and tried to capitalise on the momentum of the game, but in one of Ajax's next attacks, Las Schön scored the most beautiful goal of the night, curling in from an almost impossible position from a free kick. Los Blancos threw everything that they had at Ajax and were unlucky not to score after hitting the woodwork twice in the first half. All in all though, Ajax were the team that deserved to qualify and continue writing their own fairy tale in the magical 2018-19 Champions League season. As for the future of Real Madrid, Santiago Solari had logically been sacked and replaced by Zinedine Zidane, whose decision to leave in the first place had proved disastrous. This was demonstrated by the way Madrid played from March until the end of the season, losing just 3 games in 13. The real recovery from the terrible week began in the summer after the end of the season. President Florentino Perez was determined to rebuild the Real Madrid legacy, spending over €350 million in 2 months to buy players who were now part of the core of the team. such as Eder Militao, Ferland Mendy and Rodrygo, along with other high-profile signings such as Eden Hazard and Luka Jovic, who turned out to be bad investments. However, the summer of 2019 could be defined as the transition period between Real Madrid's star-studded squad with the BBC trio of Benzema, Bale and Ronaldo, Marcelo and other legendary players who were part of the 3 successive Champions Leagues, and the new Real Madrid with Vinicius, Rodrygo, Militao, Courtois and Fede Valverde. From today's perspective, a few years later, it can even be said that those 3 disastrous defeats were the sacrifice that Real Madrid needed to make in order to reach the next glory period. And here we are, just 5 seasons later, when Los Blancos have the chance to win a second Champions League in 3 years, and add the 15th in their trophy cabinet. Do you remember a worse Real Madrid period ever than this one? If you do, don't hesitate to share with us. Also, if you like the work we're putting in, we encourage you to click on some of our last videos you see on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and catch you in the next one.